Can a study with just one participant be powerful enough to change the way we think about things? Hello, I'm Dr. Sam, this is Dr. Sam's Health, and today I'm going to talk about N=1 studies, the studies that have only one participant. First of all, why did I decide to talk about this subject in general? The reason is very simple. I just came across one of these studies and there was a huge discussion of that. The study was the one of Mark Haub, who is a human nutrition professor at Kansas State University, and what he did was actually quite interesting. He decided to show that the most important thing for weight loss is a caloric deficit. So in order to make his point, he had followed a very terrible diet. The diet was consistent pretty much of junk foods, or as he referred to it, it was a convenience store diet. So pretty much the foods that you can buy in a convenience store. And the only important part of this diet was that he consumed 1800 calories a day instead of his projected total daily expenditure of 2600 calories a day. So effectively he was an 800 calories deficit. And despite of the fact that he was consuming very unhealthy foods, due to this caloric deficit, he had lost 27 pounds in 2 months. I love this report because, first of all, I am a true believer in the fact that in order to lose weight, you have to create caloric deficit, and most of the current fad diets or non-fad, really good diets like keto, paleo, intermittent fasting, they all work because they effectively create a caloric deficit. I also admire the sheer brilliance and scientific courage of this gentleman for reporting this kind of experiment and for investing his time and effort into conducting it. At the same time, I realized that a lot of people do not really understand science. A lot of people would say that it's not a truly scientific thing. We need some sort of randomized controlled trial. We need much more than just one participant. It doesn't prove anything. And I beg to differ. And today I would like to talk about this in detail. I must say that indeed, in the majority of cases of scientific studies, we're trying to make experiments with multiple people. We are trying to randomize them. We're trying to conduct double-blind studies. But it really depends on the question we're asking ourselves. And I will try to illustrate it to you using, say, sprinters as an example. Say we decided to study sprinters and we want to see how long it takes for a person to run 100 meters dash. That sounds like a pretty straightforward task. All we need is a track for these athletes to run the 100-meter dash. We need a chronometer and we need a certain number of athletes. Usually we are talking indeed about having like 30, 50, 100 of people, and say we are doing this experiment multiple times. Now we've got the data on these athletes and we can say that, for example, on average, these athletes run 100-meter dash in 14 seconds plus minus 2 seconds as a standard deviation. In this particular scenario, when we're asking ourselves a quantitative research question, how long will it take for an average person to run a 100-meter dash, the sample size indeed matters. Effectively, the sample size in this scenario determines the degree of certainty with which we can predict the future outcomes or the amount of trust we can put into our data. But now let's take another look at the data. Say we have reviewed the data from hundreds of athletes and we notice that though on average they run this 100-meter dash in 14 seconds plus minus 2, we realize that not a single person was able to run this 100-meter dash in less than 10 seconds. Can we show with our data, can we be sure that no one can run 100-meter dash in less than 10 seconds? We still can use the same data that we have to try to answer this question, but we will never be certain 100% that nobody can run this in less than 10 seconds. So we'll have, say, data on hundreds of athletes and none of them has run a 100-meter dash in less than 10 seconds. And maybe we'll say to ourselves, let's continue experimenting. Let's measure the performance of many more athletes. How many athletes would we need in order to show that nobody can do this run in less than 10 seconds? From statistical standpoint, we can run this experiment forever. And still we will never ever be able to show that it is impossible to do a 100-meter dash in less than 10 seconds. Until or unless somebody actually runs a 100-meter dash in less than 10 seconds, like Kim Hines in 1968. I hope that it shows that in science, Sometimes we need multiple subjects to show something, but sometimes it takes only one experiment to completely prove or disprove something. And that is the power of these n=1 studies. They simply show us that something is possible, like in the case of Mark Haub, who had lost 27 pounds in 2 months while following a very unhealthy diet. So he showed that it's possible to lose weight without following a healthy diet. All you need to do is just maintain certain caloric deficit. Unfortunately, this kind of studies do not get us any farther than just proving or disproving something. But at the same time, some people are tempted to conduct multiple n=1 studies, and I actually know about one peculiar example of that. Maybe you have heard about Dr. Shawn Baker, who is a big proponent of the carnivore diet. He's following it. He has been following it for many years, as far as I know. And what he has announced is n=many study or research platform when he aggregates the data from multiple individuals. So effectively there are data from multiple n=1 studies. And what he's trying to achieve is he's trying to show that it's safe to follow this diet, the results and so on. I'm actually very curious about the results of his study, but even now, without knowing anything more than I just said, I can tell you that from the pure research or scientific standpoint, this kind of research is not adding any credibility. So pretty much you can use just one subject and prove or disprove something, or you can use hundreds if not thousands of n=1 studies, and it will not add anything to this particular study. I will definitely talk about it in my future videos, and I plan to maybe connect to Dr. Shawn Baker. But at this point I would like to wrap up this video, and I would like to say thank you to Mark Haub for doing this experiment and congratulating him on his weight loss. And I've got quite a few plans in terms of what I'm going to do in the next couple of weeks. There was a bit of a hiatus. I was taking my CS exam and I passed. Now I'm a certified strength and conditioning specialist. And I'm sorry that I was away for pretty much 2 months. I was very busy with the exam and a couple of personal things, but now I'm back and I'll be talking about this CS examination process, about a couple of books, courses, and I've got quite a few ideas in terms of what I'm going to talk about in the next 10-15 videos. So more to come. Please stay tuned. Subscribe to my channel if you like what I'm talking about. Ask questions, make suggestions. I'm always happy to see them. Also check out my website, drsamshealth.com. We've got my blog there, a couple of tools in the toolbox. And that's it for today. I wish you all the best, and I'll see you in my next video.